All right. So, yeah, this is an emergency webinar. As many of you found out in the last 24 plus hours, hey, John, uh, that the motion for injunction decision came down, which affects all of the Tirzepatide compounding. So we're going to dive into all of that, hopefully answer all of your questions. I may not know you, so hello. We had lots of people share this. We had it out on social media. So first off, I want you to know who you're listening to. So I am Dr. Lisa Faast. I own DiversifyRx, and we put on the annual Pharmacy Profit Summit. We have a membership for pharmacy owners called Pharmacy Badass University. I also own 2 pharmacies. I've owned upwards of 10. I was trying to count today. Pharmacies over the course of my life. My very first pharmacy, I started from scratch, which was definitely a learning experience. And I live and breathe pharmacy all day every day for more than 25 years now. And so I just want to help you, figure this stuff out, because this stuff's, obviously complicated. So here's all my contact information if you ever, want to get a hold of me or figure out what we are. So the goals of today's webinar. You have questions, I hope to have answers. That's really the goal. But we're going to give you an update on the Tirzepatide and Semaglutide compounding. Like, what does this court decision mean? Overview of alternatives. A lot of you, you're coming at this because you care for your patients and you want to help them, achieve the results that they're achieving for. So I'll go over some alternatives with you and kind of like just go over like what next steps are, like what kind of maybe look into the future a little bit, take a couple of educated guesses and talk about that. So as I said, if you have any questions at any time, you can pop them into the chat. I do have the chat box open. And yes, this is recorded. Yes, we will send out the recording. And yes, we will also send out the slides with the recording. All right, let's hop into this. First off, disclaimers. 1, I am not a lawyer. I do not play one on TV. I don't pretend to do that at all. I read a lot of things. I talk with a lot of smart people. So some of this is just gathering of that information and having some of that, but I am not a lawyer. The other thing is things can change. All right. Like we've seen that in this industry. All right. Things might change tomorrow. They might change Monday. So the information that I'm giving to you is as of this morning, like 5 minutes ago, I rechecked like all this stuff just to see if there was anything new out there. These are my opinions. All right. So these are, the conclusions that I have come to on certain things and whatnot. You will need to form your own opinions and come to your own conclusions. We are in unprecedented territory. All right. Not to say that other things haven't been on the shortage list and gone off, but certainly the fever pitch and craziness around GLP-1s and the millions of patients that are relying on the compounded versions, we are certainly in unprecedented territory, especially with lawsuits and things like that. So we're all kind of learning this as we go. And again, information is up to date as of today. So the big thing that changed, the injunction motion was denied. What the heck does that mean, right? Like, the legalese, it's like, okay, it's English, but what does it mean? So the FDA said, stop compounding, all right? Like I'm going to, make it super simple. The FDA said, stop compounding. OFA filed a lawsuit and filed for an injunction, which means to make the FDA stop preventing the compounding. So while that injunction motion was being decided, the FDA said, fine, we'll let compounding continue and until the decision happens. Well, the decision happened March 5th, which is 2 days ago on Wednesday, and the judge denied it. Now, we don't know why he denied it. We don't know the reasoning. The decision was sealed. So the only people that are privy to that are the lawyers in there. If they've shared, if they plan on sharing that information in any way, shape, or form, I do not know. But basically what happens is it's reverted back to that original decision where the FDA said compounding has to stop. So that's why the fever and the craziness of everything that's changed is the temporary relief through this injunction. Now, if the judge had approved it, just on the flip side, if the judge had approved it, we could have continued compounding because the injunction would have held, which said, hey, FDA, you can't make that choice yet, until the lawsuit continues. So just FYI. So that's where we're at. That's why all of this happened. So we're going to dive into just a little bit of detail. So what did the decision have on tirzepatide? Like why is this a thing? So the FDA, when they decided that tirzepatide was off the shortage list, they actually did something out of ordinary, and they gave us a ramp off period. So for 503As, which is your typical independent pharmacy that most of you on this webinar, if you're a pharmacy owner or pharmacist, that's what you are. They gave until February 18th, which obviously is in the past, or the date of the injunction decision, whichever was later. So a lot of people have asked, why haven't we heard anything from the FDA? Why hasn't the FDA website been updated? Because there's nothing for the FDA to update. They already made their decision. They said February 18th or the date of the injunction, whichever was later. Well, the date of the injunction decision was March 5th. That's the later date. That's the date that compounding must stop. And it's not just compounding, it is dispensing and distributing. So all the activities. So 503Bs have until March 19th. So 503Bs can still compound. They can still sell it to you. Now, there is some difference of interpretation. I will just say that 503Bs have till March 19th to compound, dispense, and distribute. Now, if they distribute to 503A, can the 503A then sell that? The consensus of opinion is that yes, if you are selling a 503B product, you can continue to do that until March 19th. If you're selling a 503A product, one that you made, that had to stop. That had to stop on March 5th. Now, I will say you're always subject to your board of pharmacy like interpretation. So make sure you listen to anything that they put out on, their decisions or opinions on what it is. But if you are reselling 503B products from a 503B pharmacy, the consensus is that because they have to have somebody to sell to, right? Like that's part of the ramp off, that you can continue to sell those 503B products until March 19th. Okay. Like not until your supply runs out, not until, any of that. So until March 19th. No, you cannot keep dispensing. I've got that question probably 50 times because there were some really crappy salespeople that were telling people, buy it, buy 10,000 vials from us. And as long as you buy it before the date, you can just keep selling it. So no, you cannot keep dispensing it until your supply runs out. The dates include all activities, compounding, dispensing, and distributing. So no, you cannot. You can, if you're, still selling that 503B, you can fill very large day supplies. So, you can sell somebody a 9-month supply. One, and obviously as long as you have the prescription for it, and two, the beyond use date of the product would last that long. So some 503Bs have actually up to 12 months dating. Some have 9, some have less. So, you can fill as a large day supply. It just cannot be after March 19th. All right, so that's the tirzepatide. Let's talk a little bit about semaglutide, because obviously semaglutide is 2 months behind tirzepatide in kind of this journey. So what did this decision do to semaglutide? Let's just address that. So it basically did nothing in terms of the current dates for the semaglutide. So 503As have until April to stop compounding. 503Bs have until May 22nd to stop compounding. Both of those are already listed by the FDA that says or injunction date decision. So same kind of things as tirzepatide. It's those dates or whenever the next injunction motion decision is made, whichever is later. So again, you can fill as a large a day supply as you can, as long as you have a prescription, you have a beyond use date. You can move your tirzepatide patients to semaglutide. So for those of you that are 503As, you can, obviously call those patients, get them, ask them if they want semaglutide, call the doctors, get new prescriptions, get them on semaglutide, and, continue to dispense those until the dates. TERS decision. So this is where, just some of my opinion, talking with some people. So the fact that this injunction motion was denied for tirzepatide, it may make it less likely that the semaglutide injunction would be approved. That's kind of like the, why all of a sudden would they make a different decision for semaglutide as opposed to tirzepatide? Now, I did say before the decision was sealed. We don't know the reasons. One of those reasons could be that they want to combine the different lawsuits into one. And so they would deny the motion on one and then, bring them all together. So there's lots of things. It's all speculation because the decision was sealed. So we don't know the reasoning. But if it's just, thinking if it's straightforward, if Tirzepatide injunction was denied, chances are semaglutide injunction would be denied. So kind of go into this with expecting that, these dates are going to hold, but stranger things have happened and we don't know until we know. Let's see here. I have a couple questions. Can small compounding pharmacies not labeled as 503B continue selling? No, you are a 503A or you are a 503B. Like, if you're not a B, if you haven't registered as an outsourcing facility, you are by default a 503A. You are one or the other. So you're never not a 503A or a 503B. Hopefully that answered that question. Seems like Big Pharma is trying to bait us and then hit us with a patent violation. Agreed. I'll talk about patents. The one thing I will say is that Novo and Lilly, like in the compounding space, I'm a compounder. I've made lots of compounds with products that are quote unquote patented for those one-off patients. Never was I concerned about pharma, coming down and breathing down my neck. I will say it's a little bit different with Lilly and Novo. One, you're probably not just going to do one prescription. You're looking at compounding hundreds and doing it every month. Two, Lilly and Novo has shown that they have no problem coming after the tiny little pharmacy that has the word semaglutide on their website and sending them cease and desist orders. Like, they have no qualms about going after small pharmacies. So, that's why this is maybe a little bit different for those of you that are, longtime compounders or whatnot. It's like, why are we paying so much attention to patents? And it's because they've shown that they're going to protect their patents. All right, let's see here. What's your opinion on administering 503B product in a medical clinic? Do they have the same hard stop dates? Yes, they would. You can't distribute, you can't compound, you can't dispense, like you can't do any of that. So they would have to stop by it. Now, I will say, and I've said this a few times in here, are people going to throw their middle finger up at the FDA or Novo, Lilly or whatnot? Absolutely. Do medical clinics and medical doctors get away with way more than pharmacies? Absolutely. I'm just telling you my interpretation of the rules, and then you can decide on like how you do that. Let's see. What about a physician office labs? I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but just so the physicians, they have to abide by the same dates. I had both Wegovy and Zepbound brand RX to fill and try to order from supplier. Most drinks are unavailable. Yes, I think most of us all agree the shortage is not over. Like, that's what the whole lawsuit is about, is like the FDA is not listening to everybody. Basically, the FDA in their meetings, like on some of the meetings that I've heard and some of the transcripts I've read, basically the FDA is completely discounting reports of shortages from pharmacies, from wholesalers, and from patients. Basically, they're only listening to Lilly and Novo, which is where some of the basis of the lawsuit comes from OFA. So you're right. Nomen, we'll get about oral versions. We'll get into that. All right. If I have extra, can I sell them to clinics before the end date? You can sell them to the clinics before the end date. They're not supposed to give them after the end date, but that's not your that's not your concern. As long as you dispense them by the end date, what happens after that is about them. Okay, we'll get into some of those other questions. I cover all those. All right, let's go. So what's next legally from a legal standpoint? Like what's next? So the OFA, which is the Outsourcing Facilities Association that's bringing this lawsuit, is going to submit an appeal. Like, I'm assuming it's not like I had a conversation with OFA. The next step would be is they would appeal this decision. They would appeal to a higher court. That higher court will make a decision to either overturn the lower court decision, which would be good for us, or to uphold the lower court decision. So, you can expect an appeal to be coming. The judge will need to decide on the injunction motion for semaglutide. So there is an injunction motion on the table, which is why we can still compound semaglutide even past those dates right now. And again, some legal opinions out there might be like maybe the Tirzepatide was denied because they're combining it with semaglutide. That's just a little speculation, just some legal moves. But that's the next thing, is we're waiting for semaglutide to be decided. So what are the possibilities? Frankly, either of these drugs could go back on the shortage list. As I just said, we all agree that they are not in full supply. We do have a new administration. We do have new people. Maybe they come in and be like, okay, we don't agree with the previous thing, and we're going to put them back on the shortage list. Like, that is certainly a possibility. Like, anything can happen. That's why I say, like, this is as of right now, these are the guidelines. All right. So what steps do you need to take now with kind of like the legality of all what you got? If you have anything left over, so if you're a 503A, which means you're a regular pharmacy, if you have any Tirzepatide left in stock, it's after the date that you're supposed to dispense it. Now, you can decide what you're going to do, but what I would recommend is quarantine any supply you have left over. Continue to store it properly, store it in the fridge, everything that you need to do. Be ready to go back in action if allowed. So again, if it goes back on the shortage list, the appeal is approved, those kinds of things, like, you'll be ready to go back in action if allowed. Communicate with prescribers and patients, like communicate. And I put in parentheses here's media. This is a great time for you guys to be reaching out to all your local news stations. This is a huge thing. There are thousands of people in each one of your communities that are on these products. Be posting in local Facebook groups. I've talked a lot with a lot of our members about leveraging Facebook groups. Like, I've been really successful with, I live in South Lake. So there's, South Lake parents, South Lake moms, there's like all these like branded Facebook groups, if you will. So communicate with your local media, try to get on the news, try to get coverage, because this is a big thing, and you can be that one to steer your community, like, kind of through this crisis and help them make good decisions. Follow the FDA website for updates. So this is the FDA website. I gave you the full link here. As I said, I'm sharing the slides. Basically, you can type in FDA GLP-1 supply and Google will take you there. But this is the full thing. Follow Scott Brunner, who he is the CEO of APC, on LinkedIn. He is fantastic about giving updates. APC has been fighting super hard along with OFA to like protect our right to compound. He has got really good information. I love Scott. He's also speaking at the summit, by the way. So any of you come to the summit, Scott will be speaking and you can chat with him. I'm sure even by then, in 2 weeks when the summit is, we'll have even more information kind of on this. So, all right. Question where a lot of it is catching up here. A lot of you had kind of this question. So is there any way to continue? Right? Can I make it a sublingual? Can I make it into a cream? Can I, is there any way that I can make this thing that would make it legal? Short answer, no. Like, I'm so sorry to be the bearer of bad news. But I just don't see a way. Continuing to compound with the API, and those of you that may not be compounders on here, maybe you're just reselling 503Bs, API stands for active pharmaceutical ingredient, which is the powder that people buy to then compound the product. So the powder, you're not buying it from Novo or Lilly or any of those kinds of things. So when you compound with either the API of Terz or Sema after the final cutoff dates, you are putting yourself in legal risk, in my opinion. You are putting yourself in legal risk for your board of pharmacy coming after you, the FDA coming after you, Lilly or Novo coming after you, which are all expensive and devastating things that I don't think you want to play with. As I said, Lilly and Novo have shown they have no problem coming after the little guy. Most pharma, most things like that, when it comes to like these kind of patent things, like I said, you do one here, you do one there, you're too small to care. Lilly and Novo have shown that they don't care how small you are. They don't care if you're doing one, they will come after you. So why not? Like, why can't you continue this? If you're not making a commercial copy and you're not doing this kind of stuff, and it comes down to patent law. All right. So Novo and Lilly hold every imaginable type of patent, and there's a ton of patents. Okay. But the most important one is composition of matter patent. And what composition of matter means is they own the unique chemical structure of Tirzepatide and Semaglutide, of course, lots of other things, but those patents extend well into the 2030s. So they own that chemical. So if you use that chemical to make a compound that is not their branded product, that means you're violating their patent and they can come after you. So even if you're not creating an essential copy, so if you use it to create a different strength, different dose, you're making tablets, you're making a cream, you're making a nasal spray, you're making a sublingual, like any of that, you're violating their patent because you're using their chemical. All right. I will say yes, if you use the branded product. So if you take, for example, Rybelsus, which is branded semaglutide oral capsule, and you turn that into a sublingual, you're perfectly fine. You bought the branded product. The company got to make their money that they're going to make. It's in their supply chain. You're free to manipulate that dosage form to meet the patient's needs. No problemos. So if you use a branded product to make a compound, absolutely no issues there. You can continue to do that. So no problemos. I will say you will see a lot of various opinions about continuing to compound after these dates. I've talked to people who I felt were pretty smart, and they're letting the desire of whether it's business concerns, taking care of their patients. I know so many of you want to take care of your patients. You're letting those concerns, like, I think, guide your decision making on the facts. So you will see some smart people say, "Oh no, you can continue to compound. Just do this thing or just do that thing." Again, the patent that Lilly and Novo have, this composition of matter patent, is the strongest thing there is. It is owning basically the DNA of that chemical, and using it outside of their world is just not legal. So outside of super rare cases, I can't come up with a solid legal workaround that would allow any sort of, mass amount of compounding to continue with these products. So that's just, again, that's my opinion, smart people. Let me see, there's a couple of questions in here. Let me make sure I get them all. So, okay, answered yes, you can still compound with the Rybelsus. No, there's absolutely no reason for a lawsuit if you're using their product. They're making their money. You're allowed to, that is completely within the realm of compounding to use a branded product and be able to make it into a form that the patient can use. What about adding other things like vitamins? Adding something to a branded protective patent does not negate the patent. Okay, they own the Tirzepatide, so it doesn't matter if you add B vitamins, what carnitine, whatever else. It's the Tirzepatide that they own. So it's not just, and this is where I think a lot of people are confused, because there's lots of different kinds of patents out there. Not every company gets like all the different kinds of patents. A lot of times it's because the chemical is owned by somebody else and they license the chemical and that kind of stuff. So there hasn't really been a lot of experience with this kind of thing, but they own the chemical. Anything you do, it doesn't matter what you add to the chemical, you're still using their patented product. And so that's where I'm saying, like, adding a B vitamin, combining with another drug or something like that, that does not negate that you have to abide by their patent. So hopefully that stops. So immediate stop on compounded Tirzepatide, yes, by 503A pharmacies. So 503Bs can continue to sell. As I said before, the opinion is that if you're buying a 503B product and selling that 503B product, you abide by the 503B date. But some state boards might have a different opinion, so always check with your state board. So the essential copy, a lot of people are stuck on that essential copy because that's the FDA rules for compounding, because they're protecting the products that they have approved. That does not address patent law as a whole. So the FDA allows compounding as long as it's not an essential copy of what's commercially available. Like, that's part of the compounding rules by the FDA. That does not address the fact that Lilly and Novo own these chemicals, and adding vitamins to them don't change that. Let's see. Thoughts about practitioners individually dosing for patients and as such being in compliance with FDA guidance. So again, Jean, compounding doesn't, like I said, doesn't matter if it's a different strength, a different whatever, you're using their chemical. They own the chemical. And then I personally, in my opinion, you would have to look straight faced and, think of your board of pharmacy or a representative from the FDA and said, there's no absolute way we could have gotten that dose for that patient, And there's no way that we could have used the branded product to manipulate. Like, it just starts to become a very slippery slope. But you're violating their patent using their chemical, like they own it. It would just be like somebody stealing code or somebody stealing, something else. Like, it's their intellectual property. So you can't just use it even by combining extra stuff with it. With the 503 being, first of all, preservative free. So again, like if somebody says this, now you're kind of getting to the area, Stephen, where it's like, let's say there's a capsule, I'll just say amoxicillin, and the amoxicillin has lactose in it. And so therefore a patient can't take the commercial product because they're lactose intolerant. Can you compound that product even under patent? Yes, you can. So Stephen, when you say, hey, a patient is allergic to the preservative, benzyl alcohol, for example, they get irritation from it, they need a preservative free. Sure, compound it for that patient. But are you going to say 100 patients can't take it? Are you going to say 500 patients can't take it? Like, at what point does it become that you're just doing a faux workaround that isn't actually rooted in a real medical use case? So that's where it's like, yes, there's always outliers, and there's always a way, because we are talking about medicine, we're talking about healing people's diseases, that you can do things, you are allowed to do things to serve the patient, to get them the medical care that they need. But can you really say that on a broad basis? Oh, all of my patients are allergic to the preservative, they all need preservative free. I don't think so. So I mean, you do what you're comfortable with, but I don't think so. And you talked about preservative free, now you're going to do a whole bunch of testing, you got to prove that it stays. Like, you're going to probably increase your compounding costs like ginormously too, trying to do it preservative free. Let's see. Will the injunction stop API suppliers from providing the salts to compounding pharmacies? That's a really good question, Naman. So no, it actually doesn't. It doesn't stop suppliers from selling the products. They're not manipulating it. They're not distributing it. You're all still gonna be getting the phone calls for like, buy. But the salts you cannot compound with. It does not meet the FDA requirements. One of those FDA requirements is it has to be an FDA approved product, or it has to have a USP monograph, or it has to be on the approved list from the FDA. So semaglutide salt does not meet any of those requirements. So you couldn't even compound with the salt either. Let's see. I think I've got so Shata, you can compound with the branded product like Rybelsus into a semaglutide. There's no medical justification needed. You're using the brand, you can make that, you're absolutely fine. Empower or forging ahead with combinations. How do you reconcile that? They have more balls and money than I do, is how I reconcile that. There are a lot of those big 503B pharmacies. They're part of the lawsuit. They're a part of OFA, and they're a part of that lawsuit. So they think they're right. They think they're going to win. They have the money to pay the lawyers to do that. My guesses are you don't, and I don't, and we're not a part of that lawsuit. We don't know the inner workings. We don't know their entire strategy. As I said, this is my opinions and my suggestions. You guys can make your own choice. But I never used to say, hey, well, he did it, so that's why I did it too. Like, that's never a good legal strategy. Let's see. Why strongest, if compositional matters, the strongest case, why would they sell their base chemical makeup? I don't understand that question, James. They don't sell their base. The people who make the tirzepatide, semaglutide powders, they chemically synthesize them, like good old chemistry. Like chemists get in a room and they figure out how to chemically synthesize it. If that makes sense. I think that's might have been what you're asking this. Let's see. We have patients requiring twice-a-week dosing. I don't see how twice-a-week dosing would change any of that. Yeah, so I think a lot of these questions I have answered about the patents. Not how about What about semi-Tirs being available from the wholesaler as a compoundable base powder? Would that be an infringement of itself? You mean like the wholesaler selling it? Technically somebody's synthesizing their chemical. You know, it depends what you're going to do with that chemical. Obviously synthesizing it for commercial use. There's all kinds of rules and regulations about like research and like other things. So, whatnot. All right. Okay, I think I've gotten that. I'll go ahead and continue if some more questions come up, or if I didn't answer your question, go ahead and pop it back in there. All right. Again, proceed at your own risk. You need to be able to confidently defend your decision to, you know, Board of Pharmacies, FDAs, lawyers, whatever. I think that's really super important. Let's see. Oh, some people put some in the Q&A. Does the TERS use patent apply to semaglutide if made into a non-injectable form? Yeah, because it's a composition of matter. It doesn't matter what dosage form it is. It doesn't matter what dose it is. It doesn't matter what else is with it. They own that chemical. Let's see. Okay, I think I answered the rest of those. All right. All right. So what are the alternatives? All right. So I just gave you all the doom and flipping gloom. Like, I understand that. Let's see. Oops. Somebody had their hand raised. Let's see. If you want a hand raise, I will unmute you at the end. I'm afraid that I won't be able to manage that. Or you can pop your question in there. Can you sell a 503B product until 319? Until, yeah, 319 for Tirzepatide, May 22nd for Semaglutide. Yes, Tasha, the consensus generally is, even if you're a 503A pharmacy, you can sell the 503B products until the deadlines for the 503B. Just watch out for in case your state has any other different opinion, but most have kind of done that. So let's see, microdosing. So I'm a big fan of microdosing. It's very popular around here. Absolutely love it. And again, you would have to use the compounded, or I'm sorry, the branded product if you want to compound for microdosing. So think about, like, you know, it's kind of, it's dumb, but it's like, okay, take the semaglutide from the pen, take it into your sterile lab, dilute it even further to where they could be able to microdose it and put it back in a vial, give them a syringe, and they can microdose it. My original thought process, those of you that have, like, in my membership and, you know, you've seen this evolution, you know, October and November last year, I would have thought, I had said, hey, I think microdosing might be a way around this. Like, if you're microdosing, because there's no way to get that dose from the pen. But again, going back and talking to some really smart people, the fact that they have the composition of matter patent means that you would have to take their branded product. You can get it from the pen. You pull it out from the pen, and then you use that in order to be able to give the microdosing. Like, there's a way to do it with their branded product. And so it would not allow you to compound. So again, if we weren't in this crazy space where Lilly and Nova are willing to pay their lawyers millions and millions of dollars to go around and sue a bunch of people, that may not be such an issue, but it is. They've shown they're very litigious. They have no fear of sending you all kinds of stuff, which is going to cost you a lot of money. Trust me, I just did a letter response to a cease and desist letter, you know, and I paid my lawyer $5,500 for that. So it's like, do you really want to put that risk out there by continuing to do it? Like I said, their composition of matter patent is the strongest one that you can have. They own the chemical. Anything you want to do with the chemical will need approval by them. So let's kind of flip. It's like, okay, if those are off the table, what else can you do, right? Like, patients want to lose weight. They want to get healthy. You want to help them. How can we continue to help their patients? So let's dive into that. One of the options, I think, is tesofensine. I love this product. I've taken it myself, or started to take it, I should say. So tesofensine is a serotonin, noradrenaline, dopamine reuptake inhibitor. Mouthful. It's referred to as a triple uptake inhibitor, for short. And so it's dose dependent. Higher the dose, greater response. Yes, it's oral dosing. I know most peptides aren't formulated to oral dosing. So this one, you know, swallow a little capsule. It's fantastic. All right, so here's like kind of the clinical. So I'm going to run down on the clinical stuff on some of these. Like I said, other ones, I think they're kind of standard and I put them in the slides, but we're not going to go deep into them. But these new ones I will. So again, it's oral. The dose is a 1/4 milligram to 1 milligram capsule. Target dose is the 1/2 milligram. All right, and I'll explain why. It reduces food intake. It increases fat loss. It increases insulin sensitivity. Kills the appetite. Kills the appetite is the biggest thing I hear. Dry mouth, nausea, higher blood pressure at the higher doses. So once you jumped that 1 milligram, the side effect of higher blood pressure really became a thing. So this was FDA approved in 2021 in combination with metoprolol under an orphan drug called Tesomet. I do have a little asterisk on there. Just like everything in our world, there's always two opinions. Some people think that because it was approved as an orphan drug, it doesn't qualify to be able to compound with as an ingredient. Other people think, no, it was approved. Yes, the designation was orphan drug, but it still went through the FDA approved. They had to deem that it was safe. So yes, it qualifies it. So I just want to put that asterisk on there just to give you all the information. I'm personally comfortable compounding this. I'm going to be offering this in my clinic. I'm going to be offering this in our pharmacies. Well, we're already compounding in the pharmacies. So I'm one of those people that, you know, reading the law, understanding the law, I think this does qualify. There's other people that don't, which is okay. You always do what you're comfortable with. So a little bit more, it's a different mechanism of action, you know, completely different MOA than the GLP-1s. So it's going to have different contraindications, different drug interactions. This is not like a 1-for-1 replacement with GLP-1s. It is meant to be oral, so this isn't some sublingual workaround. It's completely effective oral. The cost of goods on the target dose is a little less than $23. Retail price range for a month supply, I've seen from $100 to $250 a month. So obviously, just like pricing with anything, you price it to your market and what you're comfortable with. And you can order it from Biopeptech. I love Jerry over at Biopeptech. They're one of the peptide synthesizers. There's quite a few of them out there. So a couple of places sell it. I just really like Biopeptech. They've got super smart people on staff that I've had some really great conversations with. So I just really love that. Speaking now, Greta, about tesofensine, which is an option that you might be able to offer. Really quick, this is the effectiveness, the research data. So you can see the 3 different dosages: 1/4 milligram, 1/2 milligram, 1 milligram. You can see the average weight loss: 4.5, 9.2, 10.6. The reason I say the target dose is a 1/2 milligram, we're not encouraging any of our patients to go to the 1 milligram, because when you go to the 1 milligram, side effects, higher blood pressure is a possibility, and you only get a teensy little bit of extra weight loss. Whereas if you stay at that 1/2 milligram, you get much decreased side effects and you still get fantastic weight loss. So I think the target dose is that 1/2 milligram, lowers your cost of goods, which is always awesome, and still highly effective for the patients. All right, Semorlin. Semorlin is another option. This one is sterile. So the tesofensine, the really cool thing about tesofensine is for all of you non-sterile compounders out there, like you can make it yourself. It's a capsule. So you get to own that process. You don't have to buy from somebody else. So Semorlin, this is the first 29 amino acids of growth hormone. It'll rapidly increase people's growth hormone, which we all know growth hormone helps metabolize fat, does sugar, does all kinds of things that growth hormone does. So the thing with Semorlin, the reason why Semorlin isn't this huge hit already, is you have to inject it up to 3 times a day. So that can get old very, very fast. It works very well, but 3 times injections is definitely a lot more than once a week that the Tirzepatide and Semaglutide are in. So that's a big difference. So increased fat loss, especially in the midsection. I know when I started working with Semorlin like 20 plus years ago, it was the dad bod medicine, right? Like, if somebody has a dad bod, you give them Semorlin because it gets rid of all your abdominal fat and like your middle, and increases muscle mass. Like, who doesn't want that, right? Injection site reactions, just like any other injection. This was FDA approved in 1990. So it did have an FDA approval. You can actually order this from Lone Star Pharmaceuticals, from Biopeptech, probably lots of other places out there. And you can compound with it. Liraglutide. So there are other GLP-1s that you can compound with. A liraglutide is probably going to be what a lot of people go to because it's still the GLP-1. So like the tesofensine, you know, different mechanism of action, different things, like it might feel a little too different. Liraglutide, you know, you're pretty much working with the same product. You're just daily injections. The reason that liraglutide, you know, the reason we didn't have this fever pitch when liraglutide came out is the whole, you know, I mean, daily injections is still far more than weekly injections. So stimulates the GLP-1 receptors, reduces the appetite, same side effects as the regular GLP-1s, nausea, vomiting, constipation. This one is approved for 12 years and older. Its composition patent just ran out. No problems with this. BioPeptech has this ready supply. Many of my members have already ordered it. Lone Star Pharmaceuticals, I talked to Case this morning. They should have it in very shortly. So I know a lot of you purchase stuff from Lone Star, so they will be having it in shortly. And so this is an option. A lot of patients are probably going to have to go to the little bit higher doses of this. You know, obviously when you look at all the studies of the commercial products, semaglutide and tirzepatide have more weight loss. But you know, this is, you're at least staying in the same realm, in the same drug category. Those of you that are members, so I know a lot of our Pharmacy Badass University members on here, we already have all the custom marketing materials for like the change of tirzepatide and the dates and all of that. So submit your request. The digital team is literally on standby to try to get those turned around to you as soon as possible. We have the flyers messed up, all done up. But if you want any bag stuffers or other things, like obviously you submit that in your request. So this is part of the communication, like make flyers, make social posts, whatever you need to do to like get that communication like out there. All right. Before we go on to traditional, I'm going to go back through the questions real quick. Let's see. I hate Eli and Lily and Novo so much. I think we all agree with you. Let's see. Are 503As dispensing within 1 year BOD? So no, the 503As have different limits on what they can get on a BUD. So none of the 503As have a 1 year, but there are several of the 503Bs that have a 1 year. Okay, Masood. So the tesofensine was a part of Tesomet. It's a combination of tesofensine and metoprolol, and it was approved by the FDA, and it has an orphan drug status. So I mentioned that some people think that the fact that it was orphan drug makes it not able to be compounded with, and there's other people that are, you know, still smart, still things, and they think it is. So it's kind of like, you know, up to you to decide on that one. Tesofensine is a prescription, Devin. It is not. God, I wish it was OTC. That would be awesome. Major compounder just informed me that semaglutide lost its exclusivity. So as I said before, there's lots of types of patents. These companies have, I mean, if you go to look up the patents of Novo and Lilly have on semaglutide and tirzepatide, there are a bunch of them. The big one, though, is that composition matter. Those go into the 2030s, which means they own the chemical, like the chemical structure. They own it. So there's not a whole lot that you can do without their permission. But some of the other certain things, you know, other patents and other things like expire, but sometimes those don't matter when you have another patent that's basically bigger and stronger than those were. All right, I think that's most of the questions. Yes, can we make flyers saying semaglutide ends on May 22nd and advertise? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly what I would be doing. Those are the templates that we've made for our members. So they're ready to go. We can customize them for you. And Ngozi, don't tell me on this webinar, go to the membership site and put it in through the custom request, because don't lay on me. Go use the system. I will forget. Oral tirzepatide. So it doesn't matter if it's oral, doesn't matter if it's a different strength, doesn't matter. Personally, in my opinion, because of the composition of matter patent, you can't do anything with tirzepatide unless you're using a branded product. So if you want to open up the pens and use the pen, you know, liquid to make other things, that's up to you. Of course, they'd be really expensive and probably wouldn't benefit anybody. So, you know, I don't really think that's a feasible option, but that would be the legal way to do it. All right, so traditional prescriptions. I am going to blow through these fast because y'all don't need a clinical lesson from me, but just to show you, like, I think we've forgotten about some of these other things because the GLP-1s have completely taken everybody by storm. You kind of forget there's still other things that can be used for weight loss. So again, I will send you all these slides with the recording. You will have these. I know not all of you on here are pharmacists. Some of so you might be good to get that. So phentermine, right? Phentermine's classic, amazing. Metformin, right? Metformin was like actually one of the how metformin works is in some of the GLP things. So metformin, don't forget about metformin. It's great. It's cheap. You can do great things with it. Topiramate. Topiramate as its own, it obviously can be combined with other stuff like phentermine into, this is the branded product. If you're a compounder, I would make some other dosages. You don't have to worry about the composition patents. So as long as you make some other doses, it's not a commercial copy, we're good to go. Bupropion, another one of those, like works good for some people, really helps like those people with severe cravings where they're just like, I can't stop craving. Bupropion might be appropriate for them. It is comboed with naltrexone, low dose naltrexone. Of course, you can do low dose naltrexone on its own. The dexamphetamine, the Vyvanse, it's been used a lot for weight loss. Phendimetrazine, some of you aren't old like me. I loved this drug. My patients that used to take this way back in the day, they had such great results, but it is a control. And so some people are like, no, control, but it kills the appetite, very similar to phentermine, dry mouth, all that kind of stuff. Low dose naltrexone, as I mentioned, is another compound option. You can do up to 1 milligram to 8 milligram. I've seen up to 8 milligram twice a day, which you're kind of like getting out of like the low dose area, but it still seems to help for weight loss. So there's a lot of things that you can do for traditional meds. There's other options on the compound side, whether it's Sermorelin, liraglutide, tesofensine. There's even other things. I tried to focus on like getting it narrowed down to that. Okay, I'm going to go over some of the like food options, supplement options, testing options. Like there are lots of ways you as that local community pharmacy can support your patients. I did not get into any of the research stuff in this particular model, but maybe your patients buy research chemical grade stuff, but you still want to support them. Like there's always ways that you can support them, help them be more effective, help them reach their goals, and of course, maintain some of that revenue and profit that, we've all frankly gotten used to if you've been doing this for a while. So some of the food options, I just put some of my favorites on here. This is certainly not an exhaustive list. All right, frog fuel, love frog fuel. My family eats a lot of frog fuel, mostly my kids. Proto is in my opinion, the best protein mix out there. Flavors are delicious. They have digestive enzymes in there. You don't get all that bloating feeling. Like, love Proto. My favorite is the chocolate and peanut butter. They go out of stock a lot on that though, so don't you all buy it for me because I like eating that one. Clean Simple Eats, fantastic product, flies off the shelf. They have a great marketing team and like kind of influencer strategy on TikTok that like drives demand. 1UP Clear Protein. I like 1UP for patients who don't like kind of the chalky or milky that most proteins come in. Most proteins are kind of like the shake kind of feel of texture to them. Maybe some people are like lactose intolerant or anything like that. 1UP is a clear protein. It's like a juice. It's almost like drinking a juice. So it's fantastic. Prolonged fasting, going through the prolonged fast mimicking diet. That is an option. You can buy it. We have a great partnership with them. You can resell it so you can actually make some money. Optavia is another option. Like there are always tons of options. So supplements, what kind of supplements? Again, I'm just hitting some of my favorites. AMS, nitric oxide. Nitric oxide in general is just one of my favorite things. It actually makes you feel like a human again if you're old like me. And the reason I like the AMS product is it's 100% oxalate free. So if you've never had kidney stones, you've probably never been told how bad oxalate can be for you. But as somebody who experienced kidney stones, I never want one again. So I really control my oxalate intake. I realized that almost every nitric oxide supplement on the planet has a crap ton of oxalates. So those were all off the table for me. And the people at AMS went and made a 100% oxalate free version. So yay. I love that stuff. Nudura probiotics. Awesome they've got blends in there that are proven to help with weight loss. AMS also has a bunch of other products. One is the Thermo and Hunger and their ketones, which are awesome. Dihydroberberine. So berberine's been around for forever. Berberine is kind of like the nature's metformin, if you will. It certainly helps. It works on some of the GLP-1 pathways. Dihydroberberine is like 5 times more absorbed than berberine. So it's kind of like the supercharged product version. AMS ketones, J Infinity, NAD. A lot of people are talking about NAD. If you are a sterile compounder, a lot of you are compounding NAD IVs or infusions, those kinds of things. The best supplement that I have found is J Infinity from Dr. Shee's company. I know a lot of you started using and selling this because he spoke at our summit last year. Dr. Shee is like literally like the world's leading research scientist on NAD. And he has a test so you can test your NAD levels. That'll tell you what dose of the supplement to take, and then you can retest your levels. So it's an awesome product. BioWarrior iodine. A lot of people trying to lose weight. Their thyroid iodine, may not be not working enough that they need like prescriptions, but there needs to be a boost there. So I love the BioWarrior iodine and Shilajit minerals. Most people don't take enough minerals. Shilajit is awesome. That is great. All right. Next is tests. So I'm a test junkie myself, but putting a couple of here that are specific to weight loss. ZRT weight loss, one of the most cost-effective, very informative tests that you can do to give you all kinds of insight to help a patient lose weight. ALCAT is a food sensitivity test, Cell Science Systems. They have lots of studies that show how it is effective for helping people lose weight by just changing their diet, reducing the inflammation, and all of a sudden, like, weight disappears. The Dutch test, ZRT test for hormones. The STIKU and InBody, a lot of you have gotten this that did like comprehensive weight loss programs, but it like measures all the different body stuff. Micronutrient testing. So this is from Cell Science Systems too. I do this for my athletes, for my high-performing athletes. The Cell Science System has a micronutrient test. It'll give you the cellular nutrition level. It's called a cellular nutrition assay, and tell you exactly what vitamins you need to take. And then they have a great partnership with the vitamin company where you can literally push a button and get a completely custom vitamin made for your patient that is not very expensive. And so we have our high performance athletes on this. I'm hoping to bring it to some of the USA national teams soon. But that is a fantastic testing program. And again, the J Infinity NAD test to tell you, like, if you could sell that, even if you do the IV NADs, you can still sell the NAD test. You don't have to sell the supplement. Let's see. Is there a reason someone could not take tesofensine? If they have super high blood pressure or uncontrolled high blood pressure, I probably wouldn't want to mess with their dopamine and epinephrines and all those kinds of things. So generally, I would choose something else. Do you have contacts for wholesales for these? Sure. Most of them are on my website, the DiversifyRx website, but I will include it in the email with the recording. So make it easy for you. Stop for 2 seconds. I'm sending you the slides, Mina. I want to make sure that we have time for some questions at the end. Any contacts for AMS? Yes, I'll send that to you in the emails. It's approvedmedicalsolutions.com. The cool thing I like about AMS is not only are their products cool and really work, but they only sell to professionals. So you won't find their stuff like on Amazon or Walmart or those kinds of things. So approvedmedicalsolutions.com. There you go. Let's see. Yes. So Richie was talking about using the commercially available product. Yes, you're good to use the commercially available product. Okay. All right. So you were saying opening the pens would be considered adulterated. Not in the sense of compounding. If you're compounding it into a different thing for patients, I mean, technically compounding is adulterated, but there are the rules that allow for compounding if the patient needs something. So you're fine doing that from a compounding perspective. Okay. I think that is it. Really quick. In 2 weeks, we have a summit. I know most of you probably already have tickets. If you don't, we have like 30 tickets left, but we are covering medical billing, like actual doable, freaking practical medical billing, We've got easy employee training where we are actually giving you like an entire training program for being there. I'm going to be talking about automated marketing. We got tax savings. We got AI. I'm so excited for the AI section. Like I've been diving into AI, getting a little addicted to it, frankly. Legal hot topics. We have lawyers. We have Scott Brenner from APC. Like I guarantee you in 2 weeks, there's going to be more information on this topic than there is today. So we'll get into all of that. The PSAO analytics, if you all are not analyzing what you're dispensing, what kind of patients you're dispensing for, what kind of plans they have, I guarantee you're in the wrong PSAO, or you should be direct contracted. I did the PSAO analytics for my inner circle, and the difference on a monthly basis between some of the pharmacies was thousands of dollars a month if they just use different contracting terms. So we're going to be talking about PSAO analytics, direct contracting, so much more. If you don't have your ticket, get it. We will sell out probably within the week. Like I said, we have about 30 tickets left, and I hope to see you all there. All right, questions and discussions. I will go back through the questions. If I missed yours, or if yours nose is really way at the top, I will also unmute. Is it Chunk? I will unmute you. I will allow you to talk, Chunk. You are up. So if you can unmute yourself and you can talk. Let me go through the questions here. Yes, we will be sending out the recording and we will be sending out the slides. So you guys will have everything. I know I am like spewing information at you, but it was a lot to cover in an hour. Yes, you will be getting that. Alpa, I will allow you to talk. Okay, Alpa, go ahead.
Hey, Miss Lisa, thank you for hosting this webinar for us. So I have a quick questions regarding, can we just write like the semaglutide ends on May 20th, like, and everybody can stock up the 3 month supply. It's just an official to add such a way to the doctor office and the Facebook and stuff.
Hold on, I'm not okay. Repeat the question again. Like, say it again.
Is it okay to just advertise that the semaglutide shortage ends on the May 20th
yes.
and stock
Yes.
it up and stuff like that?
Absolutely. I would absolutely be using the deadline as a way to generate business, inform doctors to prescribe, larger day supply if that's appropriate, getting patients to want to buy a larger day supply. So absolutely, I would be communicating it to the world. I would be talking about it with your regular media, like your news channels, like see if you can't get some free coverage from your news channels. Be talking about it with your newspaper. Yes, I would absolutely be talking about that.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate.
You are most welcome. Thank you everybody for the good thoughts. Let's see. All right, any other questions that I might have missed? Vivek, all right, you are good, Vivek, go ahead.
Hey, I probably know the answer to this too, but like for pediatrics, do you feel like there's any difference?
So pediatrics is obviously a unique space. Do I think there's any difference? Could you use these products in pediatrics? Like, absolutely. I mean, even liraglutide had FDA approval down to 12 years old. I would have no problem, using a lot of these products for pediatrics, obviously working with a pediatric, either, maybe it's an endocrinologist or somebody that specializes. I don't see any issue with that. Now, if you're asking, like, if you could compound or something, the pediatric doses that I've seen, now granted, there could be a use case where, I don't know why, but maybe you have a 2-year-old or something and they have like a super tiny dose or something. But most of the pediatric patients that I've seen, they are pretty much following the adult dosing. So just the fact that they're pediatric wouldn't necessarily like qualify to justification for compounding. But unfortunately, in our world, a lot of pediatric patients, they usually start around that 10 to 12 years of age, could benefit from these drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an obesity medicine physician.
Okay.
And I do an office lab. So you're the person
we would be working with.
Yeah, but I'm actually compounding the medicines myself via an office lab. And okay. I was just wondering, we treat pediatric patients, and I'm making compounding semaglutide for our pediatric population because often they have the same insurance coverage issues as their parents, which is so shitty. But like, do you feel that there's any difference in the copyright law? Probably not, right? I don't see why there would be,
Well,
but
no, yeah, there wouldn't be any difference and correct me if I'm wrong, but are you using drastically different dosing than what you're using for like, well, I don't know if you treat any adult patients, but what's recommended for
I
the
do.
adult patients?
I mean, I can.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, so there's always going to be like those use cases. Like if you truly like, I'll just take the example for like benzyl alcohol. If you have a patient that's truly allergic to benzyl alcohol and they need something either with a different preservative or no preservative, like doesn't matter about patents, like that is allowed in our medical law because we care more about treating a patient and their unique needs than protecting the mass production of drugs. So, you know, you're the specialist when it comes to the pediatrics, but if your pediatric patients, you know, truly need a different dose. Now, all of a sudden, if somebody were to come in and evaluate your records and it's like, hey, before May 22nd, everybody was getting this dose. And after May 22nd, everybody got this other dose. You know, like you would have to just justify. You probably are lower on the list, just to be frank, in terms of like suing and attention from Lilly and Novo than like the pharmacies who are compounding. It's just the world that we live in. So your risk is probably lower than pharmacy's risk, but it's not zero. And it also depends on your state. Like, is your state going to come out and say something?
Yeah, it's California.
Oh God, yeah, sure. I would probably be very careful in California, frankly.
Well, our lawyer said actually California uses a separate list, like the hospital list for shortages, but I'll talk to them about it. But I just want to thank you for everything that you're doing. And then I was wondering, can I join this organization as a physician?
Yes, we actually have, I work a lot with physicians, and we've actually starting to get more physicians in because I do a lot of, work through other organizations with physicians, but I can send you some info, Vivek.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Let's see. Alpa, did you have another question or is it just still up? I'm not sure. Let's see. Will wholesalers stop distribution? Who knows? Technically, like they're not dispensing or selling to any final users. As I was telling one of my members yesterday, even though Tirzepatide is stopped, if you're a 503, a lot of you like just got your sterile labs like done, and you're like, crap, what do I do now? Frankly, I would still make your Tirzepatide. I would send it off for testing, start sending it off, get all your extended beyond use dates, get all your employees trained, get all of your, you know, all of the testing that you need to be done so that when it becomes available to compound again, which I just firmly believe it will, either it'll go back on the shortage or, you know, some people and opinions will change in the FDA. You're ready to go. You know, you already have done all your testing. You don't have to start over. You know, if you haven't ordered the Tirzepatide and you know, then maybe not. But those of you who have like a gram or 5 grams of Tirzepatide sitting in your pharmacy, and you're just starting, go ahead and make your first batch, send for testing, you know, do all those kinds of things that you need to do. I believe, you know, that we'll probably have a chance to compound these again. Obviously it's not for certain, but, you know, anyways, that's just my opinion. But if the wholesalers stop distribution, I don't know, because technically they're not kind of violating any of those things because they're not doing any final stuff with them. And there's other use cases where people might still need it. So they're not stopped. That's what I'm saying. Like sometimes you're going to still get sales calls and you're still going to get people to telling, oh, $75,000 and I'll send you this. Like, you know, you kind of have to be mindful of who you're getting info from. Let's see. Our state board, proper freezing, additional ingredients, but we're good stateside. So absolutely, James, there are some states like my partner in Idaho where Idaho's like, we're fine. Like you keep on compounding it. And so definitely there are different states with different opinions on that. The only thing that like I caution him about is Lilly and Novo can come after you. You know, they very well have the right to defend their patent, you know, from things like that, even if your state board of pharmacy says it's okay. So there are some state boards of pharmacies that have come out very anti-compounding, like Missouri, good Lord, they're trying to compete with California for being pains in the asses for compounders. But then there's other states that have been very favorable, like I said, like Idaho, and there's some others out there that have been like, hey, we care about our patients more than like other things, like, so there's definitely going to be some variance by state. That doesn't negate the patent, but it certainly negates a lot of the other risks. So in some of those states, you might be okay continuing it, and that's your choice to make. Let's see. Doesn't advertising that we are selling this get attention by the news sources, create a way to a manufacturer to go after us? There's no reason for a manufacturer to go after you if you're following these dates and these guidelines that the FDA set out. So Lilly and Novo can't go after you if you compound before, like semaglutide, before May 22nd as a 503A. You are protected by the FDA's guidance and rules that they've come out with. After May 22nd, you don't have that protection. But advertising now, hey, you have until this date, you have until this date, here's the down low. Absolutely, you're fine, but you're protected. They can't come after you at that point because it's still under those shortage laws and rules that the FDA has created. So hopefully that answers it for you. Let's see. Okay, I think that's about it. Speak now, forever hold your peace. Give you just another minute here in case I missed anything, because it's very possible I totally could have missed something. Otherwise, they keep doing this on Fridays, like all these times I think crazy things on Fridays. All right, I don't see anything else popping up. If there's something that you think of later, feel free to go ahead and, respond to my email or send me a question. I can, if I get a lot of the same questions, I will try to get it out in the recording email to you guys. You can always submit questions through drlisafaast.com. Those go, if you guys are members, obviously you guys ask through the portal. I answer those right away. So feel free to, a lot of information was thrown at you, so feel free to do that. So my contact information, oops, let me see. Hold on, got it in the share. Hold on. I will just put this up on the screen real quick. So here you can go to drlisafaast.com, 2 A's, double A, double awesome in the last name. So 2 A's, you can submit your questions there. If you go to any other websites, it links back to that. So if you're not a member, that's how you can submit questions. Obviously, if you're a member, you submit through our membership portal. Yes, in summary, don't compound with the API. Good one. Wrapped up a whole hour in one. Let's see. Okay. All right, I will go ahead and start closing this down. I will send out the recording, send out the slides, all that kind of stuff. I will contact some of you that sent some private messages, and that is it, everybody. Thanks for joining. Sorry to spring this all on you on a Friday. It seems all these things, tend to happen on a Friday. I mean, the decision came out Wednesday, but end of the week. Hope you have a good weekend. And go kill it and do what you can to take advantage of what you can. Never ever let the chance that an opportunity isn't going to last forever from stop doing the opportunity. I just firmly am against that. Take advantage of everything that you can while you can, and there will always be another opportunity. There's always something else coming up. So thank you so much, guys. Adios. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you for joining.